Bears versus Packers. We start with the granddaddy of them all, Bears versus Packers. This one kicked off back in 1921, and it's been pure football fury ever since. Green Bay currently leads the series with 107 wins to Chicago's 95 as of 2025. This rivalry's had it all: blowouts, heartbreaks, and playoff stakes. Remember the 2010 NFC Championship? Packers won 21-14 and went on to win the Super Bowl. Fast forward to 2025, the Bears finally snapped an 11-game skid with a clutch 24-22 win. A century later, and this feud still delivers. Mahomes versus Allen. Next up, the NFL's modern gladiators, Patrick Mahomes versus Josh Allen. Allen holds a 4-1 edge in regular season matchups, but Mahomes owns the postseason 4-0. Their 2021 AFC divisional battle, instant classic, over 700 yards combined and one of the greatest playoff games ever. In 2025, Mahomes edged Allen again, 28-27. These two are redefining elite quarterbacking. Evans versus Lattimore. This isn't a team rivalry, it's straight up personal. Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore has been an ongoing war since 2017. Brawls, ejections, fines, you name it. Lattimore has mostly locked down Evans, but in 2025, Evans finally broke through with 102 yards and a touchdown. It's gritty, it's nasty, and it's must-watch TV. Bears versus Cardinals. This one goes way back to 1920. The Bears and Cardinals started as neighbors in Chicago, and even though the Cardinals moved cities twice, the history lingers. The Bears hold a dominant 60-36 series lead. The 2006 comeback from a 20-point deficit? Iconic. Even when they rarely meet, the energy's still electric. Brady versus Manning. The greatest QB rivalry ever? Probably. Tom Brady versus Peyton Manning gave us legendary matchups from the early 2000s through the mid-2000s and teens. Brady got the early wins, but Manning's 2006 comeback win in the AFC title game was unforgettable. Brady finished with 7 rings, Manning with 2, but their battles were always must-see football. Owens versus Romo. This one's filled with drama. Terrell Owens and Tony Romo were electric on the field, but the locker room tension boiled over. Owens believed Romo favored Jason Witten, and their relationship unraveled after a playoff loss. Even with the "that's my quarterback" speech, the split was inevitable. Cowboys fans still wonder what could have been. Broncos versus Raiders. Since 1960, this AFC West feud has been a war zone. Raiders lead the all-time series, but these games are always physical, personal, and wild. Who can forget the Raiders scoring 59 in 2010? In 2025, the Broncos returned the favor with a season sweep, one of the nastiest rivalries in football. Rice versus Sanders. Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders, two all-time greats who brought completely different styles. When Sanders joined the 49ers in 1994, it was fireworks. Rice was all business, Deion all swagger. Together they won a Super Bowl, but the respect was never warm. It was earned. Cowboys versus Eagles. You want hate? You want noise? Cowboys versus Eagles is pure venom. From the Bounty Bowls of the 80s to the epic 2025 beatdown where Saquon Barkley ran wild for 176 yards, this rivalry is always intense. It's the NFC East at its chaotic best. Seahawks versus 49ers. This rivalry didn't truly ignite until Seattle joined the NFC West in 2002. Then Pete Carroll and Jim Harbaugh brought their college beef to the pros, and it exploded. The 2013 NFC title game? Seattle's 23-17 win was peak drama. In 2025, the Seahawks snapped a losing streak to remind everyone, this battle's not done. Ray Lewis versus Eddie George. This was less a rivalry, more a war of attrition. Every Ravens-Titans game in the early 2000s was brutal. The 2000 playoff game, Lewis picks off George and seals the win, was symbolic. George got some revenge later, but these two built this rivalry on raw respect and pain. Giants versus Eagles dating back to 1933, this rivalry has been packed with iconic moments. Bednarik's hit, Deshaun Jackson's miracle return, and the 2008 2008 playoff upset. In 2025, the Eagles laid down another marker with a 28-3 thrashing. These teams do not like each other. Star versus Unitas. Before Brady and Manning, there was Star versus Unitas, two 1960s Titans trading championships. Star's Packers had the Ice Bowl. Unitas had the Arm and the Aura. 19 meetings, 11 wins for Johnny U, 8 for Bart. Pure vintage greatness. Steelers versus Ravens. Since the Ravens were born in '96, this has been the NFL's most consistently physical rivalry. From the 2008 AFC title game to last year's wildcard slugfest, these games are always close, always violent. Tomlin and Harbaugh have led this rivalry into legend. Talib versus Crabtree. This one got petty. Aqib Talib and Michael Crabtree fought so often it felt scheduled. The chain snatching incident in 2017. Pure disrespect, suspensions, ejections, and finally, of all places, peace made at a go-kart track. Seriously, Brady versus Eli Manning. Eli beat Brady twice in the Super Bowl. That's his claim to fame, and Brady would never let him forget it. Their Twitter beef in 2025 was as funny as their games were dramatic. Eli doesn't have the numbers, but he has the Giants' ultimate bragging rights. Revis versus Sherman Revis Island versus the Legion of Boom. Revis and Sherman were the two best corners of their era, and they knew it. Social media battles, post-game shots, and a ton of lockdown coverage. Both got rings, both got respect, but they were never friends. Rams versus 49ers California Clash Legacy Edition. The 49ers dominated early, but the Rams have surged recently. Their 2021 NFC Championship comeback was huge. In 2025, they swept the Niners again. NorCal versus SoCal, this one has it all. Kelly versus Marino Jim Kelly and Dan Marino, two 80s AFC icons. Kelly led in the win column, Marino lit up the stat sheet. Neither got a ring, but their matchups were high-scoring classics. The Bills-Dolphins rivalry owes them everything. Falcons versus Saints, the Deep South's finest feud. Falcons versus Saints started in 1967 and has been a roller coaster ever since. Blowouts, comebacks, and trash talk for days. Tied 56-56 in 2025. Balance, tension, and pure dislike. Montana versus Young teammates turned rivals. Montana had the rings, Young had the patience. When Joe got hurt, Steve took over, and the transition wasn't smooth. But eventually, both got their flowers, and the 49ers stayed elite. Chargers versus Chiefs underrated heat right here. Since 1960, these two have traded blows in the AFC West. Mahomes and Herbert have kept things electric. The 2025 game, Chiefs won 19-17 on a crazy upright bounce. This one's growing fast. Rodgers versus Sue Aaron Rodgers versus Ndamukong Suh. Pure physicality. Suh stepped on Rodgers' leg in 2014, drawing fines and fury. But later, mutual respect emerged. This was old school physicality in a modern game. Cowboys versus Commanders. This NFC East grudge match has been brewing since 1960. The Cowboys own the all-time record, but Washington's playoff wins in the 70s and 80s are legendary. Even when these teams are bad, this rivalry still pops. Swan versus Atkinson, welcome to the 70s. Lynn Swan and George Atkinson defined Steelers-Raiders violence. Atkinson's forearms KO'd Swan twice, leading to lawsuits. You can't write this stuff. Pure football chaos. Rivers versus Cutler. Phillip Rivers and Jay Cutler gave us the AFC West's most underrated rivalry. Trash talk, shootouts, and wild finishes defined their showdowns before Cutler left for Chicago. Short-lived but spicy. Chiefs versus Raiders. The Chiefs and Raiders have hated each other since the AFL days. From the '69 AFL title game to modern day shootouts, this one's been nasty. The 2020 win that ended a 13-game Chiefs run? Raiders fans still brag. Owens versus McNabb T.O. and Donovan McNabb lit up the league in 2004 until they imploded. Owens played the Super Bowl hurt, then blamed McNabb for everything. They've traded jabs ever since. Talent met ego in Philly and exploded.